Hi everyone, it's Coach Fred here, and today we're solving literal equations for variables. So this is part 2, and I'm going to start off by reviewing the end of part 1, which was how do we solve a literal equation that it's like a proportion. So I'm looking at this question: r equals c minus s divided by t, and it wants us to solve for s. Okay. And I always like to make sure that I recognize that this r would be written over 1. So it does look like a proportion. So in this case, you have to isolate that s. We have to get s alone, okay? So that means we have to get rid of everything else. So it's a fraction, so we would clear fractions. Okay, so this is just a little bit harder than the last one. So we have to multiply by the lowest common denominator. Now, in this case, the lowest common denominator is that t. So we're going to multiply both sides by t, okay? That's going to give me, I'm going to put the uppercase letter first, RT, but it doesn't matter because it's a commutative property. But on this side, the t's are going to simplify to the number 1, leaving me with c minus s. All right, so now I've got to get the c to the other side. Remember, I'm trying to get s alone. I'm trying to isolate s. So I'm going to subtract c to both sides. They're not like terms, so I have RT minus c equals negative s. All right, so yeah, it's a little tricky because it didn't say solve for negative s, it said solve for s. So remember, there's a negative 1 being multiplied to the s. So we're going to divide by negative 1 on both sides to solve for s, to make that s a positive value. And so we would get negative RT plus c, because that negative 1 has to be divided to both things and equals s. All right, so I'm going to give you a problem I want you to try, okay? So you're going to try it. So it's a medium problem. You try it. All right, so you should have gotten a final answer of y equals negative 7t plus x. All right, so hopefully, again, you saw these medium problems, these spicy problems where you're clearing fractions of proportions. We're going to take it up a notch. I know, you can do this, okay? So now we have a really spicy problem. Spicy problem because I've got fractions and I've got parentheses. There's several ways you can do it. However, you're trying to get x alone. And so you have a couple ways, and I'm going to do both ways, okay? So first, I could get rid of the 2/3 first. I hate fractions. Try to get it alone at the start. I can multiply both sides by the reciprocal of it. If I multiply, and I'm going to use a bracket here so you can see it a little better. If I multiply this by 3/2, okay, then the 3's will simplify and the 2's will simplify on this side. So I would be left with x plus 2y. Oops, that's not, a pen's not helpful. X plus 2y equals 3/2 v. Remember, the reason this is working is if you take 2/3 and you multiply it by its reciprocal, it gives you the number 1. And you're trying to get rid of it on that right side. You're trying to make it 1 on the right side. So that's why I'm multiplying by the reciprocal of 3/2. If I was clearing fractions, I could multiply by 2 and then divide by 3, but it's the exact same thing. All right, so now I'm solving for x. So all I have to do is subtract 2y to both sides. Now remember, they're not like terms. That's leaving me with 3/2 v minus 2y equals x. And that's my literal equation. I've solved for x in terms of v and y. All right, so that's one way to approach this problem, but there is another way. Often, I think you see parentheses and you just jump to wanting to distribute or multiply through. So I'm going to do that. So that's going to give me v equals 2/3 x plus 4y over 3. All right, so then I could subtract remember, I'm trying to isolate this x. I'm trying to get it alone. So I can subtract 4y over 3 to both sides. All right, I'm going to clean this up, but a lot of fractions, and so it's just not my favorite way to approach it. So I have v minus 4y over 3 equals 2/3 x. All right, now, I know all of you are saying I divide by 2/3, but remember, it's the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. Okay? This is where it does get tricky because now I have to distribute a fraction again. So that's going to give me 3/2 v minus, I'm going to come over to the right to do my math. I have 3/2 times 4/3. So the 3's will simplify to the number 1, and 2 goes into itself once and 4 twice. So minus 2y equals x. So I actually don't like to distribute first. I just know that that tends to be one of the things that students do. So either way, you're going to get the same answer. I'm just trying to make it more efficient for you. All right, so that was our spicy problem. If you want to try one on your own, I will leave one in the comments.